Alright folks, my name is Freyn and welcome back. The Ragnarok creature vote has ended and the next creature officially coming to Acer will be the Gigantoraptor Maya. If you are only interested in learning more about the Gigantoraptor suggestion itself, skip ahead to approximately 6:15, but for now let's see how the vote unfolded and how the big bird nanny came to claim its place. All in all, a very tight race for that top spot, with the Ragnaroks and the Enhydriodon being neck and neck until almost that last round. For anyone unfamiliar with the ranked voting method, the first round simply looks at everyone's top pick and eliminates the creature with the least votes. At which point the second choice for all of those voters is used, repeating until a creature finally has at least 50% of the votes. This was probably the closest vote I personally have seen at this stage, and I'm kind of not surprised because I think it was also the best pool of candidates. Maybe not necessarily the most exciting in some ways, but it was one of the most balanced. Everything had some form of appeal to it. There weren't any that I felt you could look at and go, oh god, no, please don't add that. Every single thing seemed like a fun addition, and there was a lot of comments on the last video saying that people would be happy with any of the results, which is a rare thing. For the first round, though, the Otter just narrowly edged out the Cheetah to take that top spot, being the absolute favourite there, with the Basboldia being eliminated in the last position. Perhaps a bit unsurprising, as the previous votes have always seemingly been very harsh on herbivores. Sadly, low chance we'll ever see another Hadrosaur, I think. Next fell out the Civatherium, with the Basboldia's voters largely favouring the Dreadnoughtus as their number 2. Some similarities there perhaps, with them both being billed as the largest of their respective type of creature. The giant bison went out in 8th place despite taking the largest share of the giraffe's voters, followed by the Gorgonops in 7th. The Gorgonops is a continual top 10 placer for these submissions, but it never seems to do well in the final voting. It's impressive in its own way that it keeps making it back in, but I do wonder if we'll ever see it actually do well. For 6th place falls my personal top pick of the Myungosaurus, despite taking a solid chunk of the Gorgonops votes. No surprise really, given the similarity in abilities there. While at the top we see the Mrazenoonyx has just begun to pull away from the Dire Otter. 5th place fell to the Nothosaurus, looking to be the favourite going into the final, as it had by far the most upvotes on the forum. This does highlight why I'm not really the biggest fan of the current system. Getting in early with the post seems to have more bearing on your chances than anything else. It really gives a false sense of what is popular. This can then lead to tactical voting, where fans of one particular animal will put the creature they feel is the strongest opposition to the bottom, rather than in the order that they actually like. Of course, it's just my hypothesis. Previous votes have seen clear favourites always fall near the mid-table as two rival fan groups just eliminate each other instead. But moving on, we have the Dreadnoughtus picking up the biggest chunk of the Nothosaur's votes, but ultimately going out in the 4th place. Only 10 votes behind the Otter. Actually, a remarkably popular pick, going from the comments on my previous video. It really had a lot of fans. The Otter itself then falls out in 3rd place, despite being the creature with the most first place votes initially, and the Gigantoraptor storms into the lead to deny the Cheetah right at the finish line. Congratulations to everyone who submitted a creature if you made it this far. This was the closest vote I've ever seen myself, and in my opinion all were good picks. I would have been happy with any of their inclusion. Now, given the large cross-platform player base that ARK has, I think it's fairly easy to see where the appeal for the Gigantoraptor came from. It was designed to look after your tribe's babies, and it fills quite a few niches, but one of the largest is the auto-imprinting service that the suggested creature provides. It frees you up to go and do other things and get the best out of your tames at the same time. This is pretty significant, as it currently is not a feature actually available within the base game. You have to always go and sit with your tames and give them their imprinting. Depending on the rates of the server you're on, that could mean coming back to tend to your base every couple of hours, or it could mean sitting there every 10 minutes giving it another cuddle. But it's not a feature currently in the base game. It requires mods, and console players don't have access to mods. Frequently in these votes we see some creatures dismissed in the comments due to already existing in a popular workshop mod such as ARK Additions. But it's important to remember that mods aren't available to everyone. Of course, That will change with Acer, where the mods are becoming cross-platform, but right now they're not, and it's obviously going to influence the voting. Even when people can get mods, there are some players, myself included, who prefer not to use mods wherever possible because they're not always particularly balanced. Either creatures can be overpowered themselves, or abilities are added that simply the game wasn't designed around being a feature. In this case, auto-imprinting. Wildcard didn't create the imprinting system with an auto-imprinter in mind, so it can be quite game-changing in a way. Some of these features may not make it into the official implementation, of course, but Wildcard have stated previously that once a winner has been determined, they'll be reading through the threads and using them as inspiration. So there is a solid chance that some of these make it in. Ultimately, even if this wasn't your favourite creature though, even a fraction of its suggested abilities carrying over would still bring something that each and every player can get use from. It might even become an almost mandatory tame, so it's not exactly hard to see why it won. A lot of people don't want another creature to be added that will simply be put in the background and ignored. It's why there's often such opposition in some of these threads to the suggestion of yet another apex carnivore. So it's time to trawl through the suggestion thread ourselves and go over what's there. The primary suggestion puts the raptor in with base stats slightly below that of a Therizinosaur, including comparable damage due to it having a double swing attack, proposing 30 damage per hit, with 2 hits, obviously, per click. An additional kick on top to help keep aggressors away from any young it might be protecting. Even if it wasn't tamed for the abilities, it would still be a pretty solid combat tame, especially if you happen to be the kind of person who drops eggs from your pocket mid-fight and take advantage of that suggested Mother's Fury boost, gaining a further 20% damage output, 10% speed, and 10% reduced stamina drain. If left at home, however, the raptor would take on the role of a loving nanny. First, incubating eggs for you, removing the need for those pesky, expensive, and incredibly noisy air conditioners, or the blinding ritual torch circles you see placed around, followed by auto-imprinting and feeding any babies nearby. How the auto-imprint would function is undecided, even in the suggestion post. Again, it would be down to Wildcard to choose what they feel is the most balanced method should it make it in. But the proposals put forward are to either have a full 100% imprint available as long as any food is in there, nice and simple, you get your creature, and it does exactly what it's described. Alternatively, to keep it a bit more balanced, they suggest having an imprinting quality stat similar to the nursing effectiveness of a Maywing. The stat would start at 50% base and then be raised through point investment all the way up to 100%, so it could do the entire job for you. One of my favourite parts of the suggestion is in the taming method. We see more and more creatures suggested and implemented with unique taming, as Wildcard is clearly trying to move away from the current, rather nonsensical, abusive relationship of beating them up and shoving food down their throat, hoping they somehow forget it was you that hurt them to begin with, and also somehow know it was you who gave them the food while they were unconscious. The suggestion here is an OSD-style nest defense. First locate a pair of wild raptors and their nest structure, then you fend off wave after wave of hungry predators hoping for a quick meal. Given the relative strength of the raptor itself, I can only assume the attackers would have to be pretty potent to necessitate a survivor's intervention. And I do have to wonder why they weren't attacking before we arrived on the scene. Are we the real cause? Are we here to take advantage of their small brain, trick them into thinking that we saved them from a non-existent threat? Food for thought. Whether we will see this implemented is again a question we will have to wait to be answered. For reference, the Phaseolasuchus taming method suggested was to sacrifice a highly armoured creature, allowing it to be grabbed and crushed similar to how you would tame a Tuso. But the newly revealed dossier from Wildcard states that it will instead require explosives and a wild ride to tame. Although perhaps not the best example, as the Phaseolasuchus' major functionality was moved away from being a natural trapper and into more of a sand shark, so obviously the taming system no longer lined up. On the other hand, the Ragnaroks has a taming method that is almost a direct match for its suggestion, including needing a male essence, damaging the female down, and getting it to impregnate your tames, although the numbers and specifics were tweaked a little. Ultimately, there's evidence both for and against Wildcard taking the taming on board, but I personally hope they will. The suggestion for the raptor is honestly incredibly detailed and really has had a lot of work put into it. They've even suggested colour regions and patterning artwork inspired by a cockatoo, along with an example of how sexual dimorphism would look, with males having an additional feather adornment on their back, and females getting some extra stripes along their breast and neck. As Wildcard used the entire thread for suggestions though, it is important for us to look further if we want to speculate on how the creature could be implemented. Another post details it as being a larger, more terrifying Therizinosaur, which is no creature to be approached lightly already. Leaning more heavily into its classification as an Oviraptorosaur, the taming method for this alternative is based on feeding fertile eggs. Each creature would have a preference for a certain type of egg which you would bring and feed to it using a ghillie suit, at which point it would cease being aggressive to you and you would engage in your little mini-game, hitting the directional arrow keys in order to mimic it in some form of Dance Dance Revolution system. Dances would also feature heavily in the utility, bringing powerful buffs and debuffs to the field. While I could see Wildcard going down this route, as we don't have a huge amount of creatures that buff beyond their pack, it would quite possibly displace the Utavanus a little too much. Having some variety, rather than every single boss fight being 19 of your chosen creature and a Uti, would of course be very nice, but too much overlap does lead to one becoming supplanted entirely instead, which doesn't really solve the problem. 10 dances were suggested for this in all, including but not limited to a calming effect on wild creatures, temporary creature taming, fire resistance buff, increased XP and increased speed. Ultimately, I think there will be a lot of disappointment if this route were chosen, as the real selling point we've seen desired over the past week in all the comment sections on videos and the threads has been people wanting that breeding assistant aspect. As we delve deeper into the thread, one more suggestion is given, which is all about how to balance its nanny abilities and prevent it from being too powerful. They suggest making the abilities further tied to its level, with several possible methods for achieving this. First is to limit which abilities are available depending on how high the raptor is. Their example, for instance, is not getting the Mother's Fury buff unless you're above 60. An alternative is which creatures could be looked after, suggesting a level 25 would only be able to handle the most basic of offspring like a parasaur, while a 150 would be wrangling unruly giga children around like a professional. We could further expand on this idea, of course, to limit the imprinting capabilities to things of its own level and below as well, giving you cause to further try and breed and mutate your Gigantoraptor, not just grab the first you see and call it a day. It is always nice to provide a reason to go out and get better creatures. Obviously, with things like gatherers, you want a better creature so you have more harvesting capability, gather at a faster rate, or more weight capacity. For a damaging creature, you simply want more damage and health. But something like a Maywing doesn't really have any use of getting a higher level if all it does is sit around and feed your kids. So I like ideas that promote getting a higher level creature and especially continuing to breed it. Fossils of many Oviraptorosaurs have been found in or around nests full of eggs, so treating it as a caring parent would make a lot of sense, leaving the thieving nature to the smaller and already present Oviraptor in the game. I'm sure there is some disgruntlement from a section of the player base that yet another theropod will be coming, of course, but it's important to remember that should this be adapted with any similarity to its suggestion, this is extremely different from what's already present. The theropod problem mostly derives from many being rendered obsolete already. When your only purpose is damage, there's always likely to be a bigger set of teeth out there, and adding more apex carnivores just bumps someone's favourite further down the list. I don't personally see the problem with more overlapping creatures being added, and perhaps I'll make a video on my thoughts as to why sometime, but I am glad to see the potential for further niches being filled before we go down that road. But there we have it. The exclusive creature coming to Ragnarok in the shape of the Gigantoraptor. Congratulations to the winner and to fans of fluffiness who would likely have been content either way, with the Marasanonyx and Otter being the two closest contenders to the crown here. I admit neither of those are the ones I expected to be at the top. The Marasanonyx is designed as a travel mount, and of course everyone always favours flyers, particularly on a map so large and with so much verticality as Ragnarok. And for the Otter, it is a creature mostly about going in the water, which, especially on Ragnarok, people don't tend to do. There is only really going down for that one artifact, that ever draws people into the water. Now, though, there is nothing to do but wait and see how the Gigantoraptor ends up matching up when Wildcard reveal its dossier, and of course the eventual creature arrives in the game. Thank you all for watching. If you would like to help support my channel, please drop a like, subscribe, and let me know what you think in the comments. I will see you for the next vote on Aberration. Bye-bye.